rate as opposed to the commercial rate, not who is receiving the bill. None of this report applies to the homeowners living in the home. This all applies to the people that are building their homes in advance of the people moving into the home.
So if I may, and that's what I thought, it wasn't that there were residents in the home. This is where a developer has water into the home and it's hooked up, and whether a user is using water or not, or is in Florida for the winter, there is a charge to be hooked up, whether you turn the tap on or not. Is that a fair statement that what this is talking about?
Yes and no. So the way it currently works is that after 3 months, the property is billed the standby charge regardless of how much water they use.
Yes.
So if they use 10 cubic meters or if they use 150 cubic meters, they pay the same. Just let me make sure I get the number right. 46.28.
Right.
Which is what, when we would turn off somebody's water service, when they go to Florida for the winter and they ask to have their water service turned off, they pay a standby charge and there's no volume associated with it. These homes that are under construction are paying the standby charge, but they're using water, but they're not paying for the water that they're using.
I finally have it straightened out. I appreciate that. Now I know what that refers to.
Councillor Brunton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to get something clearly. When they're building the house and the line goes in, like when they do their footings or foundation there, when does the meter usually go in? After they close it in? And they, like, cause do they not piggyback water from a neighbor when they're bricking or something like that? Like you don't charge them until that meter goes in, am I right?
Through the chairman to council, I'm choosing my words very carefully with respect to what is taking place. They are not typically billed anything other than the standby charges until such time as the resident moves in, regardless of how much water they're using. And that's the problem is that they're paying a minimal amount yet using a lot. I think your example of bricking the house and using water to do that, they're not currently paying for that water that they're using to brick the house, or the water that they're using to water the lawns, or any of that sort of stuff, or the new sod that's just gone down. You'll frequently see in newer subdivisions a home where they've just recently laid sod, and they'll be watering it connected to the house next door that's under construction, because that house next door under construction isn't being charged for water yet. So rather than running up the one water bill on the house, they're using it from the house next door, where they're only paying the $46 a month.
Okay, so when does the meter actually go in? Is it at the request of the builder?
Through the chairman, that is correct.
So that's usually when they go to test their plumbing, I would assume.
That's correct, or they're close to that part of their construction, et cetera.
So
and each builder requests it at a different time.
Okay, so then it was the 3 months after that they were getting free gratis.
That's correct.
And
then they go to standby until the new residents move in.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Height has moved that staff report PW 17-16, removal of 3 months free water for new construction to be received as information, and that the Public Works and Environmental Service Department be directed to implement the removal of providing free water for new constructions effective September 1, 2017. Anything further? If not, all those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to page 26, staff report PW 17-28, award of contract PWE 1730 hot mix resurfacing. Lee.
Through the chairman to council, in accordance with the purchasing policy, we have issued a contract for the hot mix asphalt resurfacing. We have received 2 responses to that. It is a larger job, and we are the 2 companies that have submitted bids are the typical companies we would expect to see in this area. And I'm pleased to say that it's under the amount of budget that we had originally budgeted for these projects, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Luke, and sorry, I have Councillor Columbus, then Mayor Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lee, we had budgeted, looks like $2,775,000, and this comes in at $1,071,000. So we're saving over $1 million on these two projects?
It- It's just under about 800,000 that we've come in under budget.
Okay, so we're saving 800,000. So what are we doing with the savings?
At this time, staff are seeking the award. We haven't recommended where the savings will go. We're just at the beginning of what I'm going to call the construction award season. And we would prefer to wait a little bit before we see that, because I would expect that we'll see some projects be over and other ones be under. And we would prefer to wait to actually have a better idea of where we stand before we decide what to do if there's any surplus.
Okay, thank you.
I have Councillor Luke, then Brunton. Mayor Luke, sorry.
Doesn't matter. Is there a motion on the floor?
Not yet.
I'd like to move the recommendation, but I have exactly the same question to Lee. Lee, 798,000 is a fair chunk of resurfacing. I sincerely hope, speaking to the motion, that we quickly find another project. We are behind in our roads. I certainly can take you for a drive and show you a few that, and I'm not a complainer. I know a lot of people want every road to be smooth as a pool table, but I really think the 798, we need to do another project or two with it. And I don't know where that is, but I encourage this council to ask staff. And some other projects may go over and some may come under, but we really need to address our roads. And we're trying to build our reserves up at the same time, but I think this was a really, really, really good tender. And I think that $800, regardless of where it shakes down at the end of the year, we need to plan on doing a few more roads around the county somewhere. And it doesn't matter to me where, based on our needs. So I just put that out, and Lee may want to comment. I mean, she's already answered the question. They're just being a little hesitant till other ones come in. But I'm ready now to spend $798,000 on some more resurfacing.
Through the chairman to council, staff can certainly look into that for you. I would suggest, given the prices that we're seeing, et cetera, that we actually look at continuing the project down the Cockshut further than the limits of this. It is slated for the 2018 capital budget. And typically when we can see these kind of savings, if we can keep the project in the immediate vicinity and make it a smooth operation, the contractors sometimes are willing to extend their pricing to a further thing. Whereas if we continue down the Cockshut, maybe we can get one more concession down the Cockshut. I'm not sure. But after council awards this officially next Tuesday evening, we can certainly talk to the contractor to see if they would be interested in doing an additional concession going down the Cockshut with some of the additional savings that we've had. And I think that James would like to add some financial comments to that as well.
Go ahead, James.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When a project comes back under budget, which in this case it has, what normally would happen is that would go into our contingency with any other savings we've had throughout the year, as well as any, like what Mr. Robinson mentioned, as well as any overages, and then we would see how the year pans out. And then the following year's capital budget plan, we would take that information and then go with the next year's plan. One thing to remember is the word savings has been used a couple times with this report. Our current, as we all know, our current reserve balance where this road project is being funded is in a deficit situation. So this isn't savings, it's more, if you want to use more accurate terms, it's we're using less of our money for this project. So I just wanted to clarify that with council.
Mayor Luke?
I hear what James is saying, and I appreciate it. But we did, in fact, put in the 2017 budget $2.775 million for these two projects. And if this had come in over budget, we'd be sitting here saying the work has to be done. We're going to find some money somewhere, contingency, reserves, I don't know where. All I'm saying is this is way under budget. I didn't work out the percentage, certainly it's a solid 1/3 below the budgeted amount. And so I recognize at the end of the year, we like to fill our contingency up and then plan for next year. But this specific money was for overlay, for repaving, resurfacing. Mr. Chairman, call it what you will. This council recognizes that we have cut in the last 2 years $29 million out of capital projects. This is an opportunity. Instead of doing these two roads for 2.775, we may be able to do another link while they're already set up there. Staff would bring back next week how much further perhaps this contractor or someone else could do with $798,000. I would support it. I would like to leave the motion as it is because this has been bid as a contract. It's here. Let's get on with this. But I'm willing to commit the difference. And Mr. Johnson is quite right with the procedure we normally follow. But I think we can squeeze some more here. This is a good contract bid. We've got a lot of roads in dire straits of resurfacing. Thank you.
Councillor Brunton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lee, is the unit price on these, are they all like just overlays or are they shave and paves? What are they?
The Cockshut is a cold in place.
Right.
And Swimming Pool Road, I believe, is the shave and pave. They're one of each. Oh, sorry, there we go. It's a shave and pave on Swimming Pool Road it's on page 26 of the agenda.
All right. So the unit prices obviously were pretty good per ton, eh?
One of the advantages to council approving the budget in the fall is it allows us to get some of these documents out quickly in the spring, and we've been able to get some excellent pricing this year by being some of the first people out tendering projects. So it's through council's ability to approve the capital budget that we've been able to see some of these cost savings.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, like, Mayor Luke's quite correct, like, you know, paving right now is the way to go, in my opinion, with the price of oil. And I can support waiting a bit. It's early in the season, and I know you got the Queensway approval now, too, so I realize it's a different pot of money, but all said and done, if we can extend some of our paving, is the contract written for the same unit price to extend it, like if we added on more of the Cockshot, that kind of thing?
Through the chairman to council, ultimately, that would be something that we would have to negotiate with the contractor. It is within reason. I would say that 790,000 is sort of outside the realm of what would normally be considered reasonable. My experience with these contractors, working with them in the past, is that if we advise them, you know, if council awards this at council next week, officially, we will then be in a position that we can talk to the contractor, and I'm sure that we can probably, at this point in the season, negotiate some additional work with them at the same unit prices that we're looking at, because it would just be in that particular, if we extended the Cockshut, it would continue to be a continuous operation for them, and there wouldn't be moving or relocating or anything like that.
Well, I just think it's based on the economy and everything the way it is with the price of oil and that. I think it's a wise move to do more paving this year if we can afford to fit it in, I guess. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
My list, Sonnenberg, Height, Black, and Columbus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lee, I understand shaving and pulverizing, but the Coxer Road is cold in place resurfacing. Does that suggest there's no surface preparation at all? You just put the asphalt on top, or what preparation goes into in-place resurfacing?
Through the chairman to council, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to describe it. Shave and pave, they remove the asphalt and they take it away.
Right.
Cold in place, they basically use what's there, and it sort of gets ground up and then placed back down and compacted, and then a hot mix goes over top of that.
Well, isn't that pulverizing?
It's a bit of a different process that they use, but it's very similar, yes.
Oh, so there is extensive preparation to the Coxer Road before we do anything else to it.
The process is very quick. You won't notice Relatively speaking, for a road reconstruction project, it's very quick, but you will see a bunch of work taking place in the cockshut before you see, it's not simply the operation where you see the sort of the shaver go by with the paver going in behind it. There is some preparation work.
Yep, very good, thank you. And Mr. Chair, I will support what the mayor suggested, that we extend this resurfacing of the Coxer Road one more concession if we can. That would take us to what I call the Tyrrell intersection, and from there on, the road isn't bad into Renton. So that would go a long way to making the Coxer Road a much better road. Thank you.
Councillor Hoyt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For some clarification from our finance department, we're looking for funding out of the gas tax reserve fund or revenue reserve fund. Normally, don't we use the roadway construction reserve fund for this type of project?
James.
Through the chair, I'd have to get back to you on that. Certain reserves of certain qualifiers and what to use for certain projects. Gas tax, for instance, there's certain requirements on what we can use it for, and we'd like to use that before the roads reserve. So that may be the case here, but I will definitely get back to you with that information.
Okay, thank you. Well, is there any money in the gas tax reserve? Because the road reserve is past empty.
Through the chair, yes, there is, and if you give me 5 minutes, I can give you the balance.
Now, I'm going to have to assume that we're going to debenture this amount. Would that be correct? I'm assuming we're going to have to debenture this amount. Would that be correct? So at the end of the year or at some time in spring next year, you're going to come with some kind of a report to us and we're going to debenture a whole bunch of money again? This will be one of those projects, I take it?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. Any project that is identified through the roads reserve, even though we're using the gas tax, but the roads reserve, as we all know, is in a deficit situation, so that is where we would put the debt financing towards.
And through the chair, what would be the term that you would debenture a road for? Would it be a 20-year or 30-year?
Through the chair, it's case-by-case basis on how long we would debenture the projects for. 20 years seems to be the norm. I'm not sure if 30 years is even possible through Infrastructure Ontario. However, that's something we could definitely look into.
Okay, because I hate to throw cold water on the idea that we have a windfall here, but if we're debenturing it at 15 years and 3% interest, and I believe we paid over 3% interest for that last round of debentures, you're still talking $2.4 million to pay off your $1.9 million. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Black.
Chairman, I certainly am going to support the motion, and the comments around the table are very encouraging to me. For years now, as I've seen Simcoe's roads decline, I've been talking about having to put more money in the budget for roads, and I know it goes for the same all the way across the county. So I do support the concept of not just taking our, as James said, our savings and plowing that back into our roads, and I certainly would support the extension of the Coxshut, based conditional upon staff's concurrence, and we have to not just take our savings and put it back in, but we're going to have to start looking at increasing the budget for roads. And if we just, for example, look at Port Dover, their Main Street has cost us $10 million. $10 million. That is a lot of money, and all of our municipalities, urban areas, need the same sort of thing. And so I'm happy and very encouraged by the mayor and some of the other councillors suggesting that we need to take a serious look at our road infrastructure and a serious look, and I know that's coming back from staff, on our road reserves budget and how to deal with that. Okay, thank you very much.
I also have a Bailey Bridge that's in repairs, and I don't know when that's going to happen. Anyway, Councillor Columbus.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just some clarification from Lee. Lee, the total of this project is $1,977,014. but then we get 273,445 back from Oxford County, right? So how many dollars do we have to spare that are, with respect to the budget of $2,775,000?
Sorry, I think that there's some confusion perhaps in how this is presented.
Right.
The 1.977 blah, blah, blah is the total cost to Norfolk County.
Okay, because when I see total, it looks like it adds up the Oxford County share in there as well, on page 2 of 3 of the report.
I believe that it's the way that we've unfortunately presented it. The intention was this was our total costs, not include. Oxford is also doing some work that we have to pay Oxford for as well.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mayor Luke has moved that staff report PW 17-28, award of contract PWE 17-30, hot mix asphalt resurfacing, be received as information, and that a bylaw be prepared authorizing the mayor and clerk manager of council services to execute a contract with the firm of Dufferin Construction Company for contract PWE 17-30 in the amount of $1,977,14.30. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to the next one. Staff, sorry, did I say something wrong? Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I can make a quick comment on Councillor Height's question before we move on.
Okay, all right, yeah.
We lose it. Just to let council know, our reserve balance is currently projected with the commitments, and the commitments come from our 10-year capital plan. The road rate construction reserve is in a deficit of approximately $17 million. However, our federal gas tax revenue reserve fund has a surplus of almost $10 million. So we try to use the federal gas tax reserve fund as much as possible according to the federal criteria. So in this case, it met the federal criteria to use the gas tax, and that would be the reason why we use that.
Okay, I think we have time for one more and maybe have a short recess. Staff report PW 1731, award of contract PWE 17-50, Victoria Bridge rehabilitation. Lee.
Through the chairman to council, before you is the report for the award for the contract for the Victoria Bridge rehabilitation. Again, I'm pleased to report that it's another project that we've got that has come in under budget this year. Again, through council's approving our capital program in the fall, we're able to get out some better prices, et cetera, with respect to this. And we had three people submit responses, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Black.
It's always good news, so, and we'll look forward to how you want to, what more work you want to do with that savings as well, but I would certainly move the recommendation in the report.
Okay, Councillor Columbus and Mayor Luke.
Mr. Chairman, I will support the recommendation, and I just wanted to mention that when Township of Delhi, this was on the books when Township of Delhi was still going in 1999, and there was some issues there with the number of trucks from Scotland that go over this bridge, where they wanted it repaired at that time. So it's long overdue. Thanks.
Mayor Columbus. Sorry, Mayor Luke.
Thank you, Mayor Geisens, and he needs a break.
Yeah, I need a break, you're right.
It doesn't matter what you call me, it doesn't matter. But I wanted to ask Lee, I know that the project notice signs are up on this bridge. I had someone in Victoria ask me, and I'd like to know as well, the start date. I assume it's May if this contract's awarded and approved next week, but I would think this would pretty well close that east end of Victoria coming off of the Victoria Road for most of the summer. Could you just comment a rough idea, and I would get back to this person?
Certainly, through the chair to council, we would expect that this project will start in July.
Oh.
I believe that this project has a fisheries component, and the permits do not allow us to work until after July 1st.
Spawning.
Spawning
Completion date, roughly 3 months?
Late October, November-ish.
You said the end of September, thank you. I got it, I'm just kidding. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Councillor Black.
Yeah, 3 to 4.
So I did have a note here, not sure I'm understanding this right, but the total cost is 460, 430 and change, and the debenture is 545. So there's, I don't know, there's a discrepancy. How come?
Through the chairman to council, I'll look to Mr. Johnson to answer that question with respect to the debentures.
It's like $95,000 difference, or? So if you look at the report, like, I don't know if I'm missing something here, but the total says 460, and yet the debenture is for 545. So is there really a need for a debenture of 545, or is the debenture, should it be 460, or is there something else mixed in there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, the debenture that we would issue would be for the project amount. That might be an oversight in the report.
Oh, right, thank you.
So just to deal with the part of that where we're talking $545,000, does that come out? Sorry, you said it's not what we're going to debenture, the 545? Sorry, did I misunderstand something?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the debenture that we would issue would be for the price of the project that came in. The 545 may have been used initially with the budget amount just to get the figures ahead of time. However, since we have the real cost of the project, then that would be the cost of the debenture.
So that part of the motion should be left out? The 545,000, but then we're actually going to debenture 381,311 and 49 cents.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if you give me some time, I can clarify that for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Brunton.
Yeah, just a quick question to Lee. Lee, I noticed, I know that bridge, the span's very short, it's a small bridge, but does this fin belt, have you used them before?
Through the chairman to council, Norfolk County has used them before, as well as I have personally worked with them multiple times over the years.
Okay, and is it a complete rebuild, like abutments and the whole 9 yards, or is it just the deck, or what is it?
It is the removal and replacement of the bridge barriers, the new concrete deck overlay, asphalt wearing surface, waterproofing, et cetera, as well as some concrete work for the wing walls, the abutment walls, the fascia, the soffit, all of that sort of area.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Black.
I guess I'm still wondering if maybe, the motion should be changed just to say the debenture being the amount of the total cost of the project rather than the 545.
James is working on that right now.
Okay. So, but whether he works on it or not, like if we change the motion to reflect the cost, then wouldn't that be okay?
He has an answer, I hope.
Through the chair, if I can suggest, if we could reword the motion to say to a maximum of 545,000.
Okay.
That way, I can confer with my staff on the reason why that amount was in there rather than the project.
Yeah, no, that's a good suggestion, Mr. Chairman. If we could change the motion just to a maximum of the 545, then I think that would make the motion a little bit more accurate.
Okay, you got it. The clerk will read the motion.
Through the chair, moved by Councillor Black that staff report PW 1731, award of contract for PWE 1750, Victoria Bridge rehabilitation, be received as information, and that a bylaw be prepared authorizing the mayor and clerk, manager of council services, to execute a contract with the firm of Finbuilt General Contracting Limited for contract PWE 1750 in the amount of $381,311.49, excluding taxes, and further that the funding for the Victoria Bridge structure D00024 be provided from the issuance of debentures in the amount of the total cost of the project to a maximum of $545,000 with a term not to exceed 20 years.
Okay, everybody's all right? All those in favor? That is carried. We will take a 10-minute break.
Like somebody cut me open.
Okay, I'll come with you. Would Kathy know or not? Know what? About, yeah, do you know anything about yeah, because we're at the point where we had Nikki and Todd just saying, you know, you're going to search. So I was like, I'm telling them that so we're money for the business association. Before I started, once this goes in, it gets kind of crazy, so that's why it's James dash John.
I know John did an email.
Yeah, so what is that just saying is pertaining to? I don't know. See, Lee, take care. Yeah, okay. No, I just put that one in my on the back burner, but it's obviously moved to the front today, and I wasn't in favor of moving it forward. But if you're happy, you're happy.
We generally just put the maximum the budget amount.
That makes sense.
I sent an email.
Yeah, I read it.
In case they run into problems.
Yes.
Or unexpected costs that they have. So we generally do that. I like the word maximum. We only issue the debt based on the actual cost. So if any came in lower than, yeah, this way then we don't have to anyway, I like that fast. But in the future, that's it's funny, all these years I've had that question.
Bill, your wife's calling. Bill, your wife's calling. Bill, presume that's your wife. That's my sister. Oh, okay.
The gas tax.
Hello, Sheriff. Yeah.
Like, the whole thing's going to be the gas.
We're sitting in council meeting.
Right.
Council, we just started a break, so yeah.
So that's why that
You
was
caught me
passed.
off guard.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
Now, if there's funds that are available for the budget council, we'll definitely use the potential funds and apply it to public. We're working on that reserve report, so that will address that, because from that, we'll have to like say, okay, we're still in a negative roads reserve, so we'll have to have some funding for maintenance, we have some gas tax. Then we'll be able to determine how much more contribution we have to increase, and then we can say level of capital plan.
Yeah?
There was another one, I missed that one, I was just mentioned. You wanted to talk to me, you said you did.
Whenever there's a large surplus, say, 1 always sort of said to council, I said, well, normally what we do is if there's a surplus, we put it in contingency. There's no magic contingency, but that's how I explained it. And then we take that, and when we do the next year's 10-year capital plan, and then that's, another way to put it, I guess, we put it back in the reserve.
Right.
But,
Basically says this fits in excess of the
yeah.
They have things like that, waive the policy, but the policy makes the decision.
So it is in the
Savings.
policy.
You can't get,
Yeah.
savings.
I mean, they had a good point. I mean, that same road project extends the following year. But, it would, just don't want every time there's $100,000 surplus, it's found money. So I made sure I said, even though the word savings has been used, it's actually money that we haven't spent. So.
That's the kicker. We got savings from another program.
She said that his dad was mostly funded by taxes. So I kind of corrected on that.
And I still don't really know what's going on.
They're going ahead with the 1.1 million, but they're not going to do the viewing area or whatever, the 500 grand. So they loaded that down.
Anyway,
Okay.
hopefully.
Panicking there a little bit.
What's that?
I was panicking there.
No, you did very well. Well, I did. I had shut off
cover my
already
tracks?
when I when you had emailed me, and then Jane came in to say that she had that she was listening and they had a question. So
Cool. I think those are the hard ones. All right, I'll see you.
Because we could give you that and then come in. See, the other thing is, the longer it's there, the more it's going to be. So it's tougher all the way along. But I mean, part of it is they can deal with it. They can deal with it too. You know what I mean? Like that's the other. So you just didn't know where you were set. Well, I think he is. I want to make a quick move up too. But unfortunately, just my big thing, 8 centers from the office. So as soon as you. You could. So it's whatever. Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's all the agreement being up to. So, yeah, no. Yeah, and I guess we have to just see what the thought is, because you don't know down the road. Like the idea to do it quick is if you're done and you're moved on and you're over the years, you're paying less interest or whatever rate because you got it, and that's your sell off, and you don't have to worry Jones on a problem, but if it did come to something, yeah, that's fine. So we don't need to. So we would assume all that. So it's a tough thing. Notice I forget what you said. Something tweaked. I just want to make sure. I thought we'd been transparent with that. See, at first we were looking at the 550 thing, but that's when we sat. We sat as a family. Even the girls sat. It's too late. It's too late. That's where we went up to the 6 plus plus everything else. What do you got there? I mean, we all got that too. So it's not good. Is that about 80 now? What's that? Yeah. Well, yeah, there'd be 82. That's I'm gonna put it probably Friday. I'm gonna put that 26 or 36, and then too. So you've got laptops and USB wall, and I'm thinking you must have those that have the span. So you'll have yeah, but what I think we need to do is establish that because then when we're setting them up down the road, they may not, they may have to sell it because that too, because they may, so you don't know. So I like to keep it up to be, so it's like that over and other things. If we don't lose money from that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with carrying on the way we are. That's the other. No, because it's not. We've made our mind up. It's not. So we'll see, but like I'll have. What's that? Yeah, she'll have to pay someone. So 349, probably get about 3. If they need to use 30,000. He'll probably walk with 3. And I think he'll get about 200. So that's why he thought 200 clear and then the 50 be 250. I just have 100. It's right now. I always figured that it was very close. It's 160. So that I'm not sure I'd like to borrow my turn off. It's the 2. No, but at the same time, that's part of the deal. 6 whatever.
The rest of the development, so you got to be very careful. And I know there's a few other people thinking the same thing.
Are you here? Yeah. That's right.
I had one last week.
You know what I mean?
They run 3 planets around one back to one. And they're starting up a massive capital bridge over my profile went, you gotta call us. Like, call us. It's like everything in your LinkedIn profile is exactly what we want. You know, they can be stationed as well. Where are you, Simcoe? Well, how much?
That's too bad. I thought it was going to be.
No, they were going to be 10,000 less. So, no pension.
I have followed your hammer, Mr. Chair. I have followed your hammer.
I'm sitting in the chair. I would say I'm in charge.
Okay. We'll get back to order. We'll deal with deputations. The first one is Amy Martin, Outreach and Fundraising Coordinator, Grand River Chapter MS Society. Amy, thank you very much.
The Grand Erie Chapter. Hi, everybody.
Chapter.
Long time no see. I'm here today to just chat nicely. I'm here with the Grand Erie Chapter of the MS Society, and I just wanted to shed a little bit of light on what we are and what we do and who we are, because I would really like a little bit of help with some awareness in the community for a few upcoming events that we have. So we're in Norfolk, Brant and Haldeman, and we are providing programs and services for the community, things like our support group, our exercise groups, services like funding and grant applications, things like that. Currently, Canada is #1, has the highest rate of MS in the world, and there are 1 million people living with progressive MS inside Canada, which is the most aggressive form of MS. There is no treatment and there is no cure, so awareness and fundraising is essential to what we do to try and meet our research contributions and help find a cure and some treatment. Just recently, a few weeks ago in the States, the FDA passed a drug for progressive MS, and we're very, very hopeful that it will come to Canada soon, which is a very big deal in our little world, so fingers crossed for that. But in the meantime, we need to continue to fundraise and advocate for people who need our help. Right here inside Norfolk County, we are getting ready for our MS Mandarin Walk, which is our 17th annual walk. That is on, I have a handout for you, that is on Sunday. That's our kickoff, actually. The walk is on the 7th of May, so we would love to have you if you're interested in coming, or just pledge a friend, join a team. We'll be at Holy Trinity. But prior to that, we have our kickoff brunch at Kaylee's Restaurant, which is on Sunday, April 23rd from 10 until 1 o'clock. So if you're available Sunday morning, come join us, have breakfast, support the MS Society. We'd really, really appreciate you making an appearance. And lastly, May 31st is World MS Day. I'm hoping that we can declare May MS Month here in Norfolk County. This has been done in previous years, but it really would help with our awareness and promotion inside the community for the things that we are doing. That's everything.
Questions of Councillor Brunton?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Amy, I asked you this question a couple of weeks ago off record, but why is Canada rated the highest? Like, any reasons behind that?
It's tricky, yeah. No, not necessarily, but researchers lean heavily on the fact that it's a vitamin D deficiency in where we are in relation to the equator. Yeah, so we head inside for half the year and we don't get a lot of sunlight. We're rivaled by the UK, which is second most prevalent in the world, which makes sense. They're pretty similar to us, but that's one idea that's heavily tossed around, but we don't know for sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Wells?
Just going to say, Mr. Chair, if you want more sunshine, move to Port Dover. It's always shining there.
It is a beautiful day in Port Dover right now.
Mayor Luke? You got it right this time.
Practice makes perfect. Okay, I had one question. Yes, I believe you don't have a start time on May the 7th. I believe it's 10 o'clock.
I believe we're there as early as 8 a.m. For registration. We have breakfast and snacks and refreshments, but the walk taking off, I don't know 100% right now.
Okay.
I could follow up on that for you.
I believe it's 10 o'clock, but thank you. Yeah, I just...
Close to it, and our website is on there, www.mswalks.ca.
I'll look it up
you
there.
could find.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thanks.
Chair.
Seeing no further hands, is someone prepared to make a motion to receive this deputation as information? Councillor Height?
You have one more question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
You mentioned you were looking for this council to make May the MS month.
Yes, please.
So we would need that in the recommendation. And then I don't see on here where you can actually donate to the walkers. Is that on your website where you have
It is.
a list of the walkers and you can just
The teams, yep.
randomly donate to them?
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
with that, Mr. Chair, I'd move that we receive this as information and designate May as the MS month.
Okay, we're writing that up right now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Moved by Councillor Height that the deputation of Amy Martin respecting the MS Society be received as information and that May be designated as MS Month in Norfolk County.
All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to Brian Gilvasey, CEO, Alice Canada.
Mr. Chair and
Welcome.
Council.
You have 10 minutes, and I'll let you know when you're down to 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Greetings, Council. I attend here today with Laura Alice, who is the Director of Strategic Initiatives for Alice Canada. I would like her to provide some of the more technical details of what we're undertaking here together. As you well know, that Alice Canada grew up here in Norfolk, and we now operate in 21 other Canadian communities. We have 18,000 acres of restoration or enhancements done in our portfolio now through these communities, and it's become increasingly relevant to us that we have relationships with municipalities and councillors across the land. We intensely value the skills and abilities of farmers and ranchers across Canada to affect the environment positively for the rest of Canadians. And our effort here today galvanized our thinking around one thought, that some of the work that they do can be considered an important part of Canada's green infrastructure. And the work we want to undertake together with Norfolk County through this proposal is to prove that concept by providing some research and quantifiable evidence that work upstream can actually save hard infrastructure costs downstream, which benefits, of course, the urban residents, in particular when you speak to issues of flood control and water quality. So that's where we're coming from. This is part of a two-pronged pilot. The other prong will occur in the Little Saskatchewan River watershed just northwest of Edmonton in Alberta. But that's what we're contemplating. It's incumbent upon us at Alice Canada to not only reward the abilities and the work that the landowners do, but to find markets for it. So we're looking at legitimizing green infrastructure as part of what we consider built infrastructure in Canada. Lara, will you speak more specifically to the proposal?
Hi, so what we're proposing is that we work with Norfolk County to put together a proposal that will study the green infrastructure benefits that we could provide through the Lynn River and Big Creek watersheds. There are funds available at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and a new municipal climate innovation fund. This fund could supply up to 80% of the funds necessary for this project, as well as covering costs that the municipality would otherwise bear to participate. We would work to write the proposal with our colleagues at Norfolk Council, and the project would not start until those funds were secured. So this information would be very valuable, not only for this county, but for counties throughout the Lake Erie watershed. This is being viewed as a pilot that could have important consequences for the rest of the Lake Erie Basin and reducing phosphorus levels throughout.
That's it?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Columbus.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your deputation. I'm looking at the report here, and I got a question from it. It says here that you're in the report that you're looking for assistance with financial reporting and progress payments if the application is successful. Can you elaborate on that? What type of activity the county would be involved in with respect to, assistance with financial reporting and progress payments?
Yeah, so the funds from the county would have to apply for the funds from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Fund, so it would be under the county's name. We would assist with tracking, but any monies or any checks to be cut to consultants or contractors would have to be made by the county.
How much workload do you feel that would take for someone to look after that part of the
at this point I can't say. I think county staff would know better, but we would write into the proposal a budget line for that to compensate the county for that amount of work.
Okay, so the county would be compensated for that activity?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further? Councillor Height.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the deputation. You mentioned this is it for testing of the phosphorus, or is it for, say, like the Alice initiatives around the watershed and how they handle the phosphorus cleansing, or however you would word that?
It would be modeling done by researchers to show how much phosphorus could be reduced using Alice projects. So if we put in riparian buffers or wetlands, how much less phosphorus would enter the water systems.
Okay, and do you have a rough idea on what it will cost in total?
No, we didn't want to, so the first phase of the project would to be put out a request for information where we would get, budget, an idea of budgets from different consultants and researchers, and then we would fundraise for that specific amount of money, and then a request for proposals would go out once the money was secured.
Okay, thank you. And then I noticed, I think it was Susan Evans did a report in '07 from '02 to '05. So will that basically update her report as well?
Yeah, it would add to that. So we've talked to a few researchers, so they're looking, so there's some information available about water quality at this point, but the whole idea is to expand on the information that we already have.
Okay, and will it be a multi-year project?
We're hoping that the modeling analysis could be done in about a year. The idea is that the federal government has large buckets of federal green infrastructure dollars, so we want to do the modeling so that that money could be acquired by this municipality and others to fund this sort of work in the future. So, like, we don't want to dilly-dally too much.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have you spoken to anyone on staff about their possible involvement in this project?
Yeah, we've been dealing with Bob Fields, who has been very helpful.
And is he interested in participating in this project? Should we say yes?
I don't want to speak for Bob, but I think that we've had a lot of interest federally and in other counties, as well as from Bob, about the potential of this project to set the stage for other counties, as well as federal infusion of dollars to help solve some of the environmental problems.
Further? Councillor Brunt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I noticed there recently where our friends across the lake have really cut back on any funding to deal with Lake Erie and all the Great Lakes. Will that have any bearing on your project at all? I think they cut back to about 10%, somebody said, of what they normally get.
It's funny in our world that occasions like that seem to drive funders to people like us. So if the government isn't going to act, then people look to more private organizations. Alice is not a government organization. We recently became a charitable organization. But it has piqued interest in the work that we do and the efficacy of what the farmers and ranchers can produce across Ontario for the Great Lakes Basin. And we think it'll help drive money into these sorts of projects. Both, philanthropic, some government dollars, corporate dollars in particular, we have a keen interest in. But we have a wide portfolio of where our funding will come from. And I might add that we've already delivered about $1.4 million into the environment in Norfolk County over the years. So we're pretty proud of that.
Mm-hmm. Councillor Columbus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At the Art Latournelle Conference on Conservation, there was a report given a speaker that there was some kind of a funding program coming forward for farmers to access, and it was to cover southwestern Ontario. And I didn't think Norfolk was included in that. So is this kind of part and parcel of that overall program?
Not that I'm aware of. We, in particular, if it doesn't apply to Norfolk, we obviously aren't looking at that through Norfolk. But some of these funding pots will run through programs like the Soil and Crop Improvement Association and others. I don't know if I've answered.
Yeah. The cutoff line was Elgin County for erosion sediment into the streams and phosphorus loading.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. There doesn't seem to be any other questions, and I want to thank you for all that you've done, not only for Norfolk County, but for actually Canada. I know that you've been all over the place, so thank you very much, and thank you and your group for all that you've done for Norfolk County. So thank you very much. I'm looking for someone to move the deputation as information. Mayor Luke. Councillor Height.
Yeah, staff a question?
Yes, you may.
Similar to what Councillor Wells was looking for.
Okay.
Through you to Mr. Fields, how much time do you think this will take of yours?
Through the chairman to Councillor Height. At this point, I'm not 100% sure. To date, I would say my involvement in this is in the relative order of maybe 5 to 6 hours that I've spent on it since I think the first time we met with Brian and Lara back in, I think it was September. We had an initial meeting and then we had a follow-up meeting in December and put this report together. So that's been about my involvement. And I don't see it as being a huge burden on my position or the people who work for me at this current point. So.
Okay, thank you for that. And one last question. We were talking about this at the Conservation Authority just at our, earlier in the month. And I believe a councillor from Haldeman brought it up. Do you, since you're in charge of water and wastewater specifically, do we monitor the phosphorus load before and after the plants?
Through the chair, absolutely. On most of the major wastewater systems, when we go through upgrades, the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change mandates a receiver study or a similar capacity study, and often included in those are multiple year monitoring plans where we have to measure not just nutrients but all kinds of different chemical constituents